Welcome back to the Race Factory. Today we are in for a treat. We're going to have Scott Gillman talking to us. It's been a few wonderful Sundays here at the Race Factory. I've been talking to Alex Carella, Marit Strømme, Sami Seljo, Sean Torrente and Eric Stark, Timmy Seebold, to mention a few. Then we had some episodes in Norwegian, but I think we have found a way that we are going to hopefully entertain you guys on a couple of Sundays. As you see, it's going a bit backwards on the screen behind you. I am now facing backwards in my Formula 2 DAC boat racing over at Stuartby. That's what we all would like to do. I have been doing a lot of research trying to find out some interesting stuff to talk to Scott Gillman about. I had some great help. Chris Davies has been helping me out with pictures and with questions, and so has Steve Michaels. When I tried to find some good intro, obviously Scott has been racing in a different area than we have with all the social medias. But I did find some interesting video clips. Have a look at this one.
Now it's 1992 and new faces have started to capture the flags of victory. And none more driven to compete with the reputation for driving on the edge than this man, number 77, Scott Gillman. Although problems have plagued his racing team early in the season, it has taken only one good start in Saskatoon, Canada, to push him into the spotlight as another contender in a tight race for series points leader. And the right to wave the checkered flag onto the Big Wheel Rossi Powerboat Classic from Minneapolis.
Racing Series is brought to you by Mercury. At Mercury, we're driven to win. By Jeep, only in a Jeep. And by Ski Ray by Sea Ray. Set a world record. Own a Ski Ray.
Welcome to the Big Wheel Rossi Powerboat Classic from the Mississippi River, Minneapolis. As we mentioned at the head of the show, Scott Gillman captured his first victory of the season last week in Saskatoon, Canada. But in Saturday morning testing, Gillman barrel rolled in pin 3, tearing up his boat and putting more pressure on his team to keep the racing equipment healthy as well as the driver.
We barrel rolled down in the far turn there, and the water's a little tricky down there because the river's flowing so fast, and so we got a lot of parts wet, and our EFI box was wet during qualifying, so we qualified way back. So we're going to have to make a run at them and try and come from behind and have some fun.
And it was last weekend in Saskatoon, Canada that he won. This weekend in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the checkered flag goes to 77 Scott Gillman. Mike Seebold able to take second place away from the green and black of Steve D'Souza.
And now the Gillman racing team has to be ecstatic. They started way back in a 9th position. They come home with a victory, battling their way through a couple of restarts, capturing this 50-lap event here in Minneapolis. But also, Mike Seebold has to be very pleased. He was way back in a 9th position. He charged his way up and finished in the runner-up spot. So as Scott Gillman takes it around in the victory lap, we'll be back to Minneapolis to talk to the winner. Very happy crew from Colorado here in Minneapolis. Scott Gillman has won his second race in a row on the IOGP Tour. And let's go down and hear what he has to say. He is a very happy young man.
We jumped up to 9th. From 9th to 4th, then there was another restart, 4th to 1st, and then we barely held it from there. Greg Foster was just breathing down her neck, and he ran out of, I don't know what happened to him, ran out of gas or broke a switch, I believe, and, we're just real pumped up right now.
Scott Gillman, welcome to the Race Factory.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's very difficult to find an intro movie, so I've been searching the whole day, but this video, which I now broadcasted to the audience, was quite cool. It had a lot of different aspects to it. You're talking about Craig Foster. I mean, that's the guy that's going to race on your team this year. We had Curly Stephen Michaels introducing way back in the 90s. And we had the names of the Seebold, etc., etc. So, whoa, muted. Sorry, I had my microphone muted. Only you heard me. I said the video that we were having a look at had some interesting names to them. You know, we had the Seebolds. You were racing them, and you had Greg Foster there, which is going to race for you now in 2020 season. So that's why I rolled out that video. And you were on a winning streak already back then in early 90s. We are going to have a chat today, Scott, and talk about your racing career and so on. A lot of people has looked forward to this one. Tell us a little bit about when you started racing.
I started racing in 1987. I was racing motocross and off-road cars before that, and then construction got slow for a family, and we took a year off of things. And I was actually watching the powerboat racing on TV, and I'd never seen them before. Watched Seebold winning, and I thought that that would be something different to try. So I went and bought a Formula One boat from a guy named Jerry Gilbreth, and actually Greg Foster was racing for him at the time. So there's a lot of history in the beginning with Greg and I. So I bought a boat, went to a race in Jacksonville, Florida, practiced a little bit, got a good jump off the dock next to Seebold, and actually the mechanic switched the trim from 12 volt to 24 volt and wasn't used to it. And 3/4 of the way down, I wanted to stay with Seebold. I was competitive from the motocross and the off-road cars and touched the trim and blew it over. So that started my career then.
Because I've done my homework. So here in the documents, Stephen Michaels, he said, let's talk about the infamous start at your first race in Jacksonville. So that's it, 24 versus 12. What is your recommendation nowadays when you train the young drivers?
When you train the young drivers, generally, you know, I would start them at 12, go to 24, and now these days the pumps are even faster. I mean, they revalve the pumps in Formula One, so they're even quicker. So it's always good to start, you know, a little bit slower.
Steve, he has known you for many decades, so he has prepared some more questions. And what was worse, Jacksonville event or the non-qualifying attempt in Augusta? Both trips totally across the country, 3,000 miles, and no laps put in either of them.
Yeah, Jacksonville was my first experience, you know, in the racing. What happened in Augusta was I won the championship. The first championship I won was in 1990 in the U.S. And then it was 91, we drove to Augusta for the first race. And then I started blowing up motors. I went through 3-4 of my own motors and 2 or 3 of leaser motors. At the time, Mercury would lease motors too. So in the end, there was a big piston problem, but we were disappointed for sure in Augusta.
We have a lot of friends logging on, Scott. Marit Strøberg has logged on and says we are ready for the live stream. Another guy who is putting in a comment is Eric Stark. He said, "Hi Scott, you're the man who helped me into Formula One and my first podium. Can't wait for this talk." So if you're like Eric, keen to post a particular question or give Mr. Gillman a compliment, feel free to do so. I'm going to pop them up on the screen and we can try to have a more interactive live stream that way. So technology is something amazing. We have Scott joining us from a cell phone down in Italy, in Casale. So isn't that right, Scott?
Yep, that's where I came here in 97 to Casale and never left.
Never left. I learned something this morning because as a European racer, Casale is like an institution. But you recently told me that you took over the whole facility down there. Tell us a little bit about that.
The Motonautica, when I first came here in 97, there's the club Motonautica. They actually had a Formula One race here in the Po River right in front of the Motonautica. So it has a lot of history of racing, is where Fabrizio's shop was when I came over, and it had some nice facilities. And recently I was able to to buy it, and is where our workshop is, and we're very happy here.
I can imagine. I'm sitting in the race shop myself, so it's the place that likes of us likes to stay, isn't it? Let's talk a little bit about the good old days, Scott. You were racing for the official Suzuki motocross team, and apparently you were pretty damn good at the bike as well. A lot of guys, the rumor says that a lot of guys hated you since you would have cute girlfriends bringing your race bike to the start line, which drove the other drivers mad and crazy. Is that true, or can you confirm?
That's I was lucky. I grew up in Southern California, right next to Saddleback Park, and it was one of the best raceways for motocross in America at the time. And I could ride from my house to the park. So from a very young age, I was riding almost every day after school, before school, sometimes even during school. But I loved to ride there. I enjoyed riding. I had some great years of riding, but it I I did well mostly in my local track. I got a factory ride, went around the country for a few years, but that sport is a tough sport. When I was racing, you had to do two 45-minute motos plus 2 laps. It was a lot of work, a lot of training, and I got hurt a few times and stopped early actually, and then went into off-road racing.
Okay. Both you, this question has been produced by Chris Davies, who has followed you for all of your European race series already. And he said that before boat racing, both you and the offshore champions like Steve Curtis raced motorbikes. Do you think that gave you an early advantage when it came to working on how to balance out the boats and being competitive?
I think it did, because in motocross is always changing the terrain. And same with the boats. I mean, the water's changing every lap, so it's sometimes rough, sometimes smooth. And you're always looking through, for good lines through the water and different turns and stuff. So I think it gave a good advantage, true.
My club here out of Tønsberg, we also have a motocross track. So basically, my club is originally a motocross track, and I've been watching these guys, and it's not like you can always choose your way around the corners after half an hour of racing. So basically, you gotta have a very open eye to come around and come out of the corners.
Yeah, I mean, in motocross, for me, is different in the way I love motocross, because you had to pay attention to where everyone was and know where everyone is and feel, for that part. So it was really, for me, the best training in the world for this. I feel any guy that's really good on a motorcycle can do very well in the boats, for sure.
So why the switch to powerboats then? And where did you get in? You said that you watched the Seebolds on television and you found out that you were going to challenge them. Not really an average start of powerboat racing career.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the time, to be honest, after the upgrade, I really wanted to go either NASCAR or IndyCar racing, but the money is phenomenal to try to get into it. And, to be honest, construction was slow, and that's what paid the bills for the racing. And, we've always had a place at the Colorado River as we were growing up also. So I watched the 9-hour enduro a lot as a kid growing up. So I ended up just buying a boat, meeting Jerry Gilbreth, like I said, and Craig Foster, and just on the Formula One boat just to see what it was like, and started in Formula One, and it took me 3 years to win my first championship.
So you went straight into powerboat racing at the top level, because champ boat is equal to Formula One nowadays, isn't it so?
Yeah, it's the same. It was the same boat, exactly.
Let's see what they have prepared for you here. We have to take out a few questions which we can't have on even on social medias. But next question is: besides the Seebold family, who were your toughest competitors race after race in North America?
There was a lot of good drivers in North America at the time: Foster, Steve D'Souza, Craig Wendt, Actually, Felix Sorales was racing there at the time.
Yeah.
Guy named Chris Bush. Chris Bush came to Europe and raced. He was very good, Chris Bush.
I love to watch him race.
That was good. Pardon?
Yeah, I love to watch Chris Bush race. He was a madman for us. I've told the Seebold, I told Timmy here the other night when I had him on the show that basically I learned to read English before I learned Norwegian because we could only get English powerboat magazines, you know. So I was actually learning to read about the likes of Seebolds and these guys, you know, in English. And Chris Bush and your new driver, Craig Foster. I remember the title, Madman Across the Water, huh?
Yeah. Greg was known for doing a few crashes and stuff, but Greg was always very competitive, very strong for sure. And Chris Bush was a talent, huh? Sure, Chris Bush was a talent. For me, Chris Bush stopped too early, huh? So,
really?
Yeah.
They said that when you raced back in the state, you had the biggest family gathering of any paddock team. It seems like there were hundreds of Gillmans around. It must have been fun. Who came with you and who helped you with the team back then? Was it just like... come on.
Yeah, it's like a family outing for us. So, you know, my father, mother, I had 3 brothers and a lot of friends that were involved and helped me a lot. You know, I worked with Boyson for a while. One mechanic came from him named Derek. He was really good and went on to work for Seebold also. A guy named Kenny Youngblood. He's a very famous artist for drag racing and stuff. But the family was huge. It was a family event for us, same in off-road racing and everything we did.
Very well, very well. The questions are popping in, Scott, so I have to have a look at some of the questions as well. Let's say boat question. We can pop that one up. What does Scott think of a Baba boat? Jody from South Africa. He wants to pick your brain on the boat brands.
I think a Baba boat is good. Claudio worked with me for many years. Tom drove in the Baba boat for many years and did a tremendous job. I raced one in a few races one year, and I'm not sure which year it was, to be honest. But I think it's a good boat. I mean, to be honest, all the sponsons came from the same boat, which was originally a Burgess. So
that's the story.
That's the story, the history of this boat. So in the sponsor. So the Baba boat is the same as the Burgess, as everything. So it's a good boat. I mean, for me, boats is when you spend a lot of time in one boat to get used to it, whatever the boat is, I think it's very important.
Talking about boats, you may have the record for using the same Seebold hull that won back-to-back titles in North America Tour and then bringing it over to the World Tour and winning the title with it, as well as 1997. Bet you hated to see that one go away. Huh?
Yeah, I love the Seebold boats. I love the wood boats. I mean, the wood boats would give you a really good flex in the water. Some of the Seabolds were some of the best boats in the world for me. And, you know, I had a great relationship with Billy, Michael, and Timmy. And, you know, for me, BB is the boat builder for Seebold for many, many years and built a great boat. It was a good boat. The only problem with the boats in Europe was they had glass roofs. So after the first year, it was tough to make these glass boats with wood roofs.
Let's see. I got some. We will have some echo cancellation. Thank you, Joachim Halvorsen, for that. I hope the echo is turning out a little bit better. Do you know where that 1997 Seebold hull went?
Hey, honestly, I can't. I don't know where it's at now. Huh?
I can tell you because Carlos Maidana, he bought it, and I wrecked it up in 1998 in Abu Dhabi. I had it coming together in the first corner because that was a maybe too fast boat for me because I was sitting in Abu Dhabi in the final race of the year and we had a disaster of a qualifying. and I was down in 18th spot. But Carlos, he managed to get the engine singing for Sunday morning, and suddenly I was up there flying in 6 or 7 because that boat, you know very well, that was a quick one, and we had a good run motor on it and so on. Never came through the first corner, to be honest. So that boat unfortunately died and was left behind in the UAE. Anyway, that's that story. Let's get back to UIM F1 racing, Scott. Why did you step up to F1?
To come to Europe, I came to Europe one time in I think it was 89, to do one race for Arcadian. And ever since I came, the boat never ran, so I never really got in the water.
Okay.
So I always wanted to come to Europe and race, and after I won the championship 95, 96 in the US, I wanted to come to Europe, and to be honest, it was going to be my last year to come to Europe and go back home and go to work. And then, I ended up staying, but obviously.
That turned out different.
Yeah, that turned out different for sure. So, I just wanted to come over here. And to be honest, at the time, the prizes were good over here. They were giving away, I think it was a Maserati and different things, so I wanted to come over. But unfortunately, when I came over, it wasn't there that year. So.
When you made your UIM F1 debut over in Hungary, you cut 3 seconds of the previous year's pole position. What was the reaction of your teammate then, Fabrizio Bocca?
Fabrizio, it was a long time ago, so I'm sure Fabrizio was also using Ron's motors like myself at the time and the Seebold. So, I came over with Troy Wood and Ron Anderson made the motors. Troy Wood was working very hard on the boats. We did a lot of testing before we came over, and at that time we even had the wall props. So we worked very hard on stuff. And came over with a great setup, and it's basically the same boat with an engine were being ran in the U.S. as Europe. So we came over with a great package and had a lot of fun. And actually, it was a smaller boat. I brought 2 boats over.
Yeah.
One smaller and one bigger. And at the time in the U.S., Billy started racing a small boat, and we saw how good that worked. So. We made a small boat, brought a big boat for the rough water courses, and a small boat for the smoother courses.
How much shorter was it?
It was about a foot shorter, and we had to put long pickles on so it would make the rule. So it was good. It was good for sure.
First time I ever met Troy Woods was in Dunajvaros, because that was my debut race in Formula 1 as well. So you put it on pole. You were 3 seconds faster than anyone, and you had a phenomenal lap out there. But it didn't last long, did it?
No, it didn't last long. I got a good start leading the race, and within 4 laps, we're lapping people, and I caught up to Thomas Eriksson quickly, and he went wide, so I saw him going wide, so I was diving under for the pin, and he chopped straight back to the pin. I've never seen anyone turn like that, and boom, so that was the end of my day right there. And,
welcome to Europe.
Troy wasn't happy. So what to do?
Well, I have a whole story about me meeting Troy outside of the hotel that night, but I don't think we should. I don't think we should go there. I don't think we should go there. But tell us a little bit about your friend Troy, because he has worked on a number of race teams, and he was together with you for many years.
Yeah, Troy was very good. He came from a friend of mine, actually, Neil Hancock. He was a good friend of mine, and Troy was his apprentice. And Neil came over and raced, I think, in the early 90s, and kept telling me he wants to send this guy over. He's really good, really good. And at the time, Troy was only 16, I think. And so he ended up coming over in the first year and worked for someone else. And then when I saw he was very, very good, started with me in actually 95, and then we won 3 championships in a row.
Well done, well done. How many did you have? 4 in total?
In the US, I had 3, 90, 95, and 96.
And then you came over, and then you came over and you put another 4 UIM titles on top of that.
Yep. So we had some good times here, for sure.
Quite impressive, quite impressive. Some racing drivers describe some of the circuits they race on as classic. What powerboat race circuit would you describe as a classic?
I would describe courses like Hungary, Xian, classic type of courses. For me, I love those long courses, 800-meter straightaways, and you could pass at those times. The boats were different. They weren't made for acceleration, all acceleration. They were made for speed. We didn't have rev limiters. And you could actually work your way up through the field, I think, better at that time. But for me, I enjoy the races without the right-handers. I got used to the right-handers, but I enjoy those more.
Which brings us up to your second race. That was Xian, wasn't it, in '97?
No, it was Xian or St. Petersburg. I can't remember.
But anyway, you won both of them.
Yeah. Xian I loved. I ran a little bit in Xian. I should have run the bigger boat, but the water looked good in Xian, and it was a great race. But the funny part about Xian is that they had two 45-minute qualifying sessions, and then the top 6 fastest would go into a shootout. But at that time, if you didn't beat your time in the 45-minute sessions, it stood. So I broke a crank in the second 45-minute session. My boat wouldn't run. I was first. We put it back in the water. The crank was broken for the top 6, just to put pressure on Guido to run. And Guido didn't beat the time, so we started on the pole. And Troy worked all night, put a crank in it, and we won the race the next day.
We have a friend who has been on the show every single time. He is from Germany. His name is Sven Possible Kreckels, and he has a question. If I can ask you privately, he says, pineapple on a pizza, yes or no? Everybody has answered that one.
For me, I'm American, so I like pineapple on the pizza.
That's good. So Paula has not changed the way of your pizza habits?
No, I still like pineapple on my pizza, but it's difficult to find in Italy. That.
Thank you very much. Keith Whittle, he says, hi Scott, good luck with your new team. Tell us a little bit about that team, Scott. Because for me, it's easy to see the circle as soon and complete. It's been going from Gillman Racing to Gillman Racing.
Yeah, in the U.S. it was, of course, we sponsored ourselves and ran for many years and came over here, and it was different. So in Europe, I never got the opportunity to run my own name on our boats like we did in the past in the U.S. So after we left Victory now, so, I put another team together and put the name on it. But of course, we're still looking for sponsorship, but we'll run no matter what and see what happens.
Oh, my sponsor is coming on here now. You remember what we talked about yesterday? Toolboxes?
Yeah. Yeah, perfect. We can use some.
And he says, what is your favorite color on the toolbox, Scott?
Red is perfect.
Red is perfect.
Yeah.
Let's see. We have some more questions here. Let's see. Rob Irvin is one of the Osprey guys. He says, hi, Scott. How much do you miss racing as a driver?
I miss it a lot, to be honest. I can't say no. I miss it a lot. I jump in the boat once in a while and go for a ride and have some fun, and keeps the adrenaline flowing. So it's without any pressure. I enjoy to run in the rivers around here a little bit.
I have Michael Werner here as a mentor, and he's helping me out a lot of times. And suddenly, when we're down at the lake and I'm up doing my telephone or something, I hear the engine is roaring. The man is over 70. I'm coming
Yeah,
down
yeah,
and I'm looking. He has not even had my help to strap in. I was like, Michael, come on. But they said, no, 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 no. I have to do it. I have to feel it. Same thing.
yep. Same. I strap myself in and go. I mean, it's the same in the old days. I mean, it's still the same, but just can run fast, but don't want the pressure of the competition anymore, huh?
You're done with it?
But nah, pretty much. But I told Greg Foster if he finishes in the top 3 or 5, maybe I'll think about it. We'll see how Greg does.
Oh, let's see then. Let's see. That's a challenge right there. Luis Miguel Ribeiro. You know that guy?
Yep.
Definitely. He says, "Hi Scott. In your opinion, which are the main differences between the races in US and Europe? What's the main difference?"
I think that when I was leaving the US, and the main difference is the courses were a little shorter and they would run different heat races like you discussed. They would
Yeah.
run in the end for the they would do a lap of qualifying, run the races, and then run another one inverted. And it made it very exciting, huh? You had to have sure 2 boats with you.
Yeah.
But then,
You
then
needed to.
after,
I was wood boats
so
though.
yeah, that was wood boats then. So it made it exciting, made it really exciting on the Saturday, before the main race on Sunday, and it made it challenging. And it was good to see all the passing, and that's why they did it. I mean, it's good to see passing through the second race. It was very exciting.
I have come up with a new concept for Tønsberg. We have run the World Championship 5 years in a row, but now I want to challenge the system, and I want to have half an hour qualifying, half an hour free practice, half an hour qualifying. Sprint one and sprint two. Obviously, sprint one has the starting order from the qualifying race, but sprint two reversed order. Then comes the bean counter, who gets more points in sprint one and two. He is on pole for the afternoon's race. What do you think about the system?
That's a good system. The same they do in the U.S. They were doing. I don't know now what they do, but that's what they were doing before I left. Same system.
Let's see. Let's get back to some questions. Here is one from Chris Davis. He says that some people think that when a racer starts a family, they lose a bit of their racing edge as their priorities change. Do you agree with that theory?
Not really. I mean, I started in the boats in '87, and my daughter was born in '84. So I don't think it just depends on the person, I guess.
Didn't change anything for you then. It's impossible, Scott, to talk about racing and to talk about your history without talking about Abu Dhabi. I have prepared a little video where you're talking about Team Abu Dhabi back then. An episode of your life which started back in, I think, in 1999, and you raced for them up till 2007. And then you switched over to being a team manager. Let's have a look at this video, and let's talk about your role as both a driver and a team manager for different powerboat racers and teams. Here is the video.
The Abu Dhabi team, the drivers and the mechanics and the whole team is a very professional team. We've worked very hard to create a good team. The boats are built by Baba Racing in Italy, and we've worked on developing the boats over the years, and they're running very strong now.
And with the support, obviously, of Sheikh Sultan and the club, we've been able to bring the team to a very high level. And hopefully in the future we can have the championship. Sheikh Sultan in the club, I know, is working on building a Class 1 boat now in America, and hopefully the project will go well and take some time and bring the Class 1 team to a high level also. And the club has a brilliant future, is very involved in all the powerboat racing, and Sheikh Sultan has supported the powerboat racing for many, many years now. I think over 20 years, and Abu Dhabi has really come a long ways and helped powerboat come a long way. The drivers, Ahmed and Thani, on the team now have been at it quite a few years. They're at the top of the game, and very, very qualified drivers in powerboat. It takes many years to get the experience and the conditions of the water because every place is different, so they've been traveling the circuit. Thani, I think, for 10 or 12 years, and Ahmed for 6 or 7 years. And you know that they've learned and their ability comes up. We have new drivers also we're developing. Rashid Al-Kwamzi, Mohammed Al-Herbi, and Fala for the Class 1, and Rashid Al-Tayr. So we have many drivers, but it takes time to get experience. So we have also drivers behind Thani and Hamid, like I said. And the future looks very strong for the Abu Dhabi drivers and the UAE drivers. So we hope in the future more and more we have other drivers involved in the Formula 1.
That was a promotional video from 2013, Scott. I know that you raced, like I said, from 99 to 2007. You won 3 championships with the team as a driver, racing under their flag, and then you swapped over and you become a team manager. From my perspective, I thought you were going to stay there forever. In a positive way, it looked like even you adopted both Tani and Ahmed. They were like yours. They were like your sons.
Yep, they were for sure. I mean, I had a great
They are.
relationship with Tani and Ahmed.
Yeah.
Yep. I had a great relationship with Tani and Hamid, and I love the club in Abu Dhabi very much. I spent 15 years there, and I was very fortunate to be there at the time. The racing was great in Abu Dhabi. A lot of people came for the Formula 2 championships, the President's Cup, and the Formula 1 team was building, and then they were going to go slowly into Class 1 and other classes, at the time. So Donnie and Ahmed did very well. I mean, Ahmed, I think it was 2013, had the championship won. And halfway through the year, they found out about the tumor, He was just an amazing driver. I mean, still today he is. But the turning that Ahmed did, the turns were second to nobody. Unbelievable, the momentum Ahmed could create coming out of the turns. That year, and he had a huge tragedy for sure, but he came back from it. I mean, it's amazing. After 6 months, he came back and ended up winning a race a few years later. But also, Thani finished second a few times in the championship, and the team won the championship as a team championship a number of times. So me, I was very proud to be there, be a part of it with Thani and Hamid. And in the end there, it was a bit of my own fault because they were more desperate to win. They wanted to change the idea because when I was there, it was only local drivers, and Thani won 6 races when I was there in Formula 1, and Hamid won about the same, 6 races. And a couple of times we almost had the championship, but at the time, they wanted to replace Thani and Hamid, the drivers. They wanted to bring foreign drivers like myself when I came. And for me at that time, it was very difficult to
to let Tony and Hamid go and bring other people from the outside like Alex. They asked me about Alex, so I asked to bring 3 drivers, but at the time there was a little bit of controversy on our 3rd different manager there. And so for me, I might have still been there if I switched them, but it's like not possible to get rid of your sons. So I left. Hamid came with me. And Hamid for me is unbelievable special. We have a great relationship, and they waited till the last minute to tell me. We put a team together quickly, went to Doha at that time, and Hamid qualified 3rd, was running 3rd, but unfortunately had an incident with Sammy, but ended up winning a race in another year. But that's part of the history. I did it to myself a little bit. I don't blame anybody, but this is circumstances. I was lucky to be at the place for 15 years like that. It was a great place.
Because from outsiders and the and the media could pretty much quickly make up a story that it was Guido who stole it away from you and so on. But now we have the story from the mouth of the horse that you actually defended your sons. You let one of the sons stay
Yeah.
behind in Team Abu Dhabi, and you build up the team in a couple of weeks. Was it?
Yep, a couple of weeks. We flew a boat to Doha. We had only 2 weeks. They didn't tell me they weren't renewing the contract only 2 weeks before Doha. So, we flew a boat to Doha and put a team together quickly. And, I've been doing it a long time, so it's not too hard. So a lot of great people helped us. I mean, I've been lucky in my whole career. I've had a lot of great people. I wish I could name everybody and think of everybody's names, but I've been very fortunate to have a lot of really good people working with me. Ron Anderson for 30 years, doing my motors almost, it seems like. Lenny Signorini, Nico. There's been many, many people that have helped me throughout my life and my career.
We have Sergey Chnobin asking a question. He says, "Why does all teams use the DAC base hull? I mean, don't isn't it better to develop your own hull, just cockpit shape modifications?"
I I thought so. Me, I never wanted to build a boat at the time because it was easy to buy and put a good setup on it and go myself, So I wasn't really bothered to build boats. Some of the boats being built, like the Baba and the deck, were very good, and at the time Seebold. But Seebold, you can't race a glass, against a glass boat and a wood boat. So, but I got interested in later doing a boat, and obviously in Victory, but unfortunately it didn't. They didn't want to give it the time. They were in a hurry to win, and there was a lot of I don't know what to say. A lot of controversy inside there. So I believe he's right. I believe a teams maybe should build their own boats, but the deck is sure very good. The Baba is good. The Moore is good. I mean, it's funny how it goes with boats, because one year the Baba was winning all the races, and then Philip Chapp was winning 3 championships in a row in the Moore. First, Sammy won 2 in the Baba. Philip Chapp won 3 in the Moore, and now Abu Dhabi with Alex, and Trente won with the deck. So it goes in circles. It goes in circles. So
Keith Whittle and also Jody Mason are asking, what are your thoughts on the Mercury V8 4-stroke? Also a common questions on this Sunday Night Lives. What do you think about it?
For me, I think that I started racing in '87, and they were still actually running the Formula One V8s at the time. And I remember Mercury developed the V6 and beat Seebold, put out Seebold in the V6 and beat all the V8s. It was a smaller, quicker, lighter boat, and the V8s were very big, heavy, didn't turn as hard and stuff. So I think when the Mercury first started to talk about the 4-stroke project, it was with Eric. He was the manager at the time, and they were going to use the V6.
Okay.
And then they came along now with the V8, and the V8 is big. It's heavy for sure, and you're going to have to change everything to run it. So, you know, I believe Mercury has supported this class in Formula Two, Formula One, all the classes for many, many years, and I grew up with two-stroke, so I really love the two-stroke. I think that the V8 is going to be big. It's a straight eight, excuse me. Is going to be too big, but they're going to run it maybe a year or so to see how it works before they go too far, and the teams need to see how it works. Just like I think the South African team came for a while, Codwell or something with the inboards. And I think it's going to take some years to transfer over, not to be able to do it immediately. It's going to take time because it's a whole different ball game. So, and me, I watch a lot of the Formula One car videos and about Formula One car. In Formula One car, they're claiming to go back to two strokes in the year 2025. So I don't know. There's a balance that needs to be met. Maybe Mercury, with all this crisis right now, I don't think it's gonna happen so quickly. I think it's gonna take time.
I'm struggling a bit because I think the sun went down in Italy. Now we don't have the transparent background anymore.
Oh, sorry.
It turned a bit darker in your room. This is why we are playing
Yeah.
with technology and so on. So let's see how I can do this. Hang on a minute.
Oh, yeah. The sun did go down.
It did, didn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So let's do like that, and let's adjust it a little bit so it doesn't look that crazy. Let's see here. Let's see here. Let's see here. We do like that, and well, the video is rolling, so no problem at all, Scott. No problem at all. We have Xian Hong from Singapore sending an greeting. And Singapore brings up a pretty interesting topic because I've called Guido Capellini today, spending 1 hour trying to have him to have some juicy stories and, trying to wiggle it up a bit, to see, because I know that the two of you are looking at each other as big competitors and respect each other and so on. And I tried to have his comments on the episode down in Singapore in 2005, because that was one of the accidents I found. Before we discuss it, let's have a look at this video, guys.
Been battling all season long. Capellini, now Gillman almost touched, oh my, and now they come down the front straightaway, and it looks like Gillman has moved himself out in front. Oh my, they're going to funnel in through the chicane, and Gillman now moves out in front as they head for 6, and oh no, disaster! Both boats going over, barrel rolling, one on top of the other, and it looks like Capellini blew right over the top of Gillman, and both the front leaders have come and had disaster happen right here at this point. Mayhem on the race course. Quickly, the Osprey rescue team comes in. We look for any of the drivers to poke their head up. Yes, there's Scott Gillman. He's okay. On the replay, Capellini somehow pinches Gillman off and goes right over the top of him, which is amazing. Here's a third look as we see the drivers there at this point. Here's Guido Capellini trying to get back the lead. There was no place for Capellini to go, and he tried to pitch Gillman into the pin, but Gillman had the lead. As we can watch again right here, Capellini just climbing over the top of Scott Gillman as the two barrel roll to a stop. Gillman not pleased. Let's hear from the world champion. Scott, what happened?
Unfortunately, Guido made a very stupid move out there today. I had him passed around the outside, and then I came inside to the right-hander, and we were out in front of him, and he turned on me. And, I don't understand his thinking. He's leading the championship. We're still way behind, and it was just a very, very stupid move.
It was just a very, very, very stupid move.
For sure. For me, that year, 2005, my boat was very fast. I was leading Como by a mile that year, huh? I had like a 15-second lead and barrel rolled because I wanted to lap him at his home place. So, for me, it was pushing. When the boat runs good, I keep pushing hard, huh? So I screwed up there I think it was Qatar. I was leading Qatar and the motor broke. I think every race that year I was leading almost, but in Singapore, for me, it was to be honest, not a very good move on Guido's. Guido's was running me around for about 4 or 5 laps, putting me out into the walls. So I think his boat got as big as the Titanic up there. So I got pissed off and I said, okay, I've had enough. I'm going around him. And I went around him, came to the right-hander, and he turned. I mean, I don't know what he was doing, but it's one of the few times, to be honest, that we ever had crashed together. So, but that year I wasn't happy for sure.
You wasn't happy. Of course,
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm not going to say
Of course, but
I'm not going to get into controversy and be Mr. Cappellini's lawyer. We are going to have him on this show hopefully sometime soon. But his first response was racing accident. So
yeah,
that's
of course.
that's it. Let's hear from him later on.
Yeah, we've had some great races though. We had one race in Portugal. It was unbelievable. We passed each other 3 or 4 times for the lead, and I was leading with 2 turns to go, and I spun out. The cowling came off. Little water got in my motor, and Guido passed me at the end. But we've had some great races over the years.
Maybe the most spectacular lap in the history of Formula One. When trailing by 9 seconds to Guido, you were able to pick your way through the field and pass Cappellini on the final turn in Gallipoli, Italy. It's a shame that it was the same day that Anton succumbed to his injury. What do you make of that day? Was this your most gratifying win ever?
It was pretty gratifying. I mean, Guido was in the front. The water was rough because in Gallipoli you had an inside part and then you went outside to the ocean. So he was lapping some guys and he couldn't quite get around him. One was Lapala that worked in his workshop.
Yeah.
So Lapala held him up a little bit, and I caught up, and in the last straightaway, got around him and passed him just across the finish line. So it was a great moment for me. I had a great time, and I think Lapala got in a little bit of trouble there. So
it was not the first time. It was probably not the first time that Patu had problems.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt.
We have a very famous female driver in Norway. She's been posting a question. Her name is Marit Strømøy, and she says, do you have a trick to beat your wife's team this year? And she's crying out loud.
Yeah, I do. I have Alex Corella and Greg Foster right now, and maybe Hamit will come back later this year. But Alex is I don't know if you saw the poll earlier. Alex, in the last 10 years, is a 4-time world champion, the highest rated driver in Formula One. So I'm going to try to beat my wife's team this year for sure. And then Greg Foster, he's coming over and should run strong, Greg. He's got a DAC this year, and I can't wait to see him run also. But Alex, for sure, is a talent. We struggled a bit for a while, Alex did, but he came back in China, won the race in China, blew over, and then unfortunately in Sharjah this year, it wasn't Alex's fault. The team made some mistakes on the engine and it cost them. So, but we look forward to trying to beat Merritt this year.
Jack Moore, he says, this should make for an interesting evening.
Yeah.
I don't know if Paula's watching.
She's watching, sure.
Paul Furman is posting questions. Hi, Paul. Nice to have you with us tonight as well. He says, do you have team members recruited from your previous team, Abu Dhabi and Victory, in your new Gillman team, or are they all new team members?
No, I think that Claudio was working for me for a long time and went to work for Sammy this year. And, I had great relationship with Claudio. And and most of the people that ever worked with me, I still have great relationships. But only right now, Giorgio, and then maybe an Australian mechanic is coming. And Giorgio's been with me for a few years and also helping out Roger. And Paulo, of course, to take care of the entertainment. But we will have, maybe it's not a new Australian, but it will be an Australian guy.
Okay, interesting, interesting. We got to talk some more about you and Mr. Cappellini. Long history, many races. What kind of competitor was he?
Guido was a smart competitor. I mean, he had great stuff. He worked very hard. I think Tilio and Giacomo are two of the best guys in the business, you know. So Guido worked hard, was clever, and we had a lot of great races together. And basically, I think swapped the championship back and forth between us, you know, for a number of years.
Sami Seljo, who was also in this mix for a while between the two of you, he was the young rookie. He always mentioned you as the gentleman racer. Do you think you could have won more races if you were more of a bastard, more of a more of a dirty driver at the racetrack?
Yeah, I don't think so. I won a lot of races, but I broke a lot because always the motors were on the edge and everything I had was on the edge. So me, I like to pass from the outside, watch people, and like I said, when we were racing in Europe at the time, there was still no right-handers to some of the courses, and you could run a little bigger prop, let the fuel go down, and run around people on the outside. So it was a little bit more interesting. I think sometimes nowadays the qualifying is just most important. But Sammy was there, and also Francesco Contendo. I mean, Contendo was always strong and fighting with Guido and myself also, and Lapala came along. There was a number of guys that were good for sure.
If you should pick your top three drivers that you competed against, who would that be? In Europe and
That I competed in Europe and in America.
yeah,
For me, it was sure Bill Seebold and the Seebold family and Guido, and there's many, huh? Foster, Bush. I mean, there's so many that to just say three, huh?
you said three. That was the American side. Now
Yeah.
European side.
Yeah. Okay, you're frozen, huh?
Am I frozen?
I don't know if you hear me,
I
Paula.
hear you perfect.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So for me, it's Seabolds and Guido.
Seebold and Guido. Pans out.
Yeah.
Interesting. We're gonna post that question later on. I hope even I'm gonna have Mr. Billy Seebold on the line, but I have to have Tim to train him to do the whole streaming. I've been now decorating homes all over the world with green screens and stuff like that. So let's see if we can manage to do that. Scott, you won 4 World Championship UIM titles. Do you feel that you would have won the 2007 title if you didn't have your heart attack in China that year?
I think of that year, I won the first race and finished second in the second race in France, and then we went to China. And that was the first year of the crash boxes, so we were playing around with those a lot. And I think I was 4th or 5th in China when I had the problem. So, but I was running good. I mean, I can say I hope for sure I would have won. I was leading the championship at the time when it started. But as you know, you never know until the last race. I mean, this year with the Jonas, I mean, Jonas did an unbelievable job with 1 lap to go. He had the championship won, and you know, Philip Chapp had a problem, and Xian ended up tying him, and Xian got the championship. So you just don't know. It's hard to say, but the boat was running good that year, and unfortunately, I wasn't. So
that's it. It's not just the mechanical parts that are on the edge; it's the bodies as well.
Yep, exactly.
Let's see. Well, we can't talk about Scott Gillman without mentioning the Abu Dhabi, but also the Victory team. You were leaving Victory team, no, Abu Dhabi team, and you went over to the Victory team, and you brought Ahmed with you. I have seen
I think
videos.
it's, yep.
I've seen videos where you're saying that you are going into the biggest powerboat racing team in the world. You stayed there for a year, but then you moved on and you created your own racing team. What can you say about that?
I can say that I ended up going to Victory because of Hamid. They wanted Hamid. And then Hamid, for me, is the best local driver in Abu Dhabi that I've ever seen in the UAE. And they wanted Hamid on the team. At the time we left, and Hamid and I ran together for a couple of years before we went to Victory.
Mm-hmm.
So Victory called. We ran 1 year under contract. We weren't actually in the team. Xian was there with Hamid. And then the following year, I brought Alex, and that's when we discussed to build a boat. Claudio and I worked on the design of the boat before we came to Victory, and the chairman, we decided to build the boat and put it out there. And because for me, I thought Victory as builder of the XCAT and Victory as the builder of the Class 1s needed to build their own boat. I mean, so for me, it takes time to build a boat and make everything work. We built the boat. We started in middle of January. We finished it, had it in the first race in May in Portugal. Alex qualified third and Hamid was fifth. Alex ran third most of the race and finished fourth. To explain it, it's difficult to say how it fell apart. But I believe if we would have kept working on the boat, would have taken some years to win. But with Victory's reputation of building boats, I believe Victory should have had their own boat. It's easy to buy boats. Like I said, I never built them. It's easy to buy a deck, a moor, whatever, and go win. And I think Alex showed that in China. But, you have to stick with a program for some years to build something. But unfortunately, internally in Victory, for me, convinced the board members to do something else. And for me, it's a big mistake. So, and they started to treat the drivers in a different way, and Hamid decided to go somewhere else. He had enough. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I went there with Hamid. So when Hamid left, I was already made the CEO, and for me, after Hamid left, I didn't want to stay anymore. So I left myself, and then Alex followed. But it's a shame because for me, it takes time. Victory has a great winning record and a great winning thing, and it takes time in Formula One. I mean, they've been in Class 1 and XCAT for many, many years. And it takes time to develop the boat. We knew what we should do more as we went on, but they didn't want to sacrifice the time. They were in a hurry to win in someone else's boat, and for me, it wasn't the right thing to do. So in the end, this is what happened. For me, is a shame of the whole situation, is a shame of some people inside Victory that undermined everything that we tried to do. Mm-hmm. But, now I believe Said Harab and Mohammed Harab are in charge now of Victory, and we'll see the changes in the future as they go on. But Victory for sure is a great name, and Powerboatracing is a legend. There's no doubt about that. I would think that they would want to stick with their own program, but like Ferrari is maybe greatest name in Formula One car. The last time Ferrari won a world championship in Formula One car was 2007. So been 13 years. So development and certain things take time sometimes, but unfortunately in there they didn't have the time to do it.
So the way I sum it up is that the difference of strategy, and when Ahmed said he had enough, you easily followed.
Yep, for sure. And then Alex came a little bit after, because the middle management in Victory is, for me, not very good. So what to say?
What to say?
There are people that have been There are people who've been in there for 20 years and were a little bit of afraid of their positions, I believe. And along with the HR caused a lot of problems. And unfortunately, the board members believed it. So this is the situation. I love Dubai, I love Abu Dhabi, but for me, it takes time in Formula Racing. It's not something you do in a year or two, because a year or two is only 6 to 10 races. Huh?
Mm-hmm. Because Alex, he used this boat in Norway when he came to my race, and he had a couple of wins on the opening day with the speed run and the match race. So obviously the boat was already at that time competitive. Now he didn't qualify for the Sunday's main final race because, of course, the competition is very, very, very hard. But I mean, he proved the speed and he proved the capabilities already there with 2 wins in a field of 30 odd boats. So clearly, as I understand, if I understand you correctly, you believe that you could also do that in Formula One with some more time and testing and racing.
Yep, I believe we could have done it with more time and testing for sure. But, you know, like I said, there was too much inner, I don't know how to put it in a political way, but unfortunately, the people inside didn't want to see it succeed. So this is what's happened. So, you know, I think the boat was working well in the beginning. We had to change some different design changes that the boat needed. We knew about it, but, you know, in the end, we didn't tell them what it thinks is needed because, you know, they didn't want to give it the opportunity. So it's a mistake for me, for Victory, to be such a name and a boat builder to be running other people's boats. They tried before to build a boat, Arif and did, and the boat was the design was not very good, and the design we brought was beautiful. So it's unfortunate, you know, what's happened with Claudio and the respect of all the guys, Hamid and Alex, that came there. It's a shame.
But you mentioned something which I picked up now during our conversation. You said that you have Greg Foster, and we all know that Alex Carella is racing for you. Great opportunities lies there. But I was also happy to hear that you mentioned that there is a possibility of a return of Hamid. Tell us a little bit about that, because that's a news.
No, we hope Hamid comes back. You know, we need more sponsorship, and Hamid's working on it, and we hope in the future. You know, Hamid just had his 4th son, so I think at the time, all the headaches, he went and is enjoying his family right now, and maybe we'll see him back in the future. I mean, Hamid is, I don't know what to say. He's a son for me. I love Hamid very much.
I'm, of course, friends with him, and we are WhatsApping and so on. And he's sending me videos when he's out boating with his kids. And he's a family man as well, isn't he?
Yeah. He just had his 4th son, so he's very busy these days playing on jet skis, and his sons will be chasing him around soon for sure.
That's the problem, isn't it? That's the problem.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the Casale, your club. Will there be a Gillman Academy down there soon?
I don't know. I spoke to you a little bit about it. We'll see. You know, I still have to fix it up a bit, you know, and then get this team going and see and try to beat Paula's team next year. So, you know, in the future, we'll see. Maybe there's something we can do like that in the future.
I have a comment. His name is Andrea Colombo. He says, I'm so proud to be a part of your team with Hamid, but my heart took me somewhere else.
Yeah, that's normal, huh? Andrea was a great guy. We had Andrea working with Hamid and Thani for years. And of course, I would be in the same place as Andrea. But me, I'm in the competition with my wife and the other team. So
it's a complicated story, isn't it? Your wife owns the team of Marit.
Yep.
For those of you who don't know, Andrea Colombo was working for Scott Gillman when he met Marit Strömme, which he later married. And, well, another story there was, I remember when Marit came home and she said, Frode, you know what? I met an Italian. I said, I hope it's Andrea Colombo. It's like, whew, yes, it is. Andrea was actually working for me in Norway for a year as well. So fantastic guy.
Yeah,
He's just down the road from
yeah.
us, doing his carbon fiber expertise. So Norway is very fortunate and lucky. And of course, Marit is lucky to have such an incredible capacity on her team. Well,
Yeah,
Scott,
she has Craig Bailey. Also, Craig Bailey's a great guy. Works hard for her.
didn't he also race together with you at one time?
Craig Bailey raced with me the first year with Abu Dhabi. I had a boat from Lino di Biaggi with Lake Huron mate actually, and Craig came over and raced it as my teammate in the first year.
Yes.
And I think it was the funnest year we ever had. We were in Aguirto Pauli's offshore shop, and it was a huge shop. And at night we would have little races on our scooters inside. We had a course, and we'd have to clean off all the concrete before the morning before Lino came in, and it would go crazy. So we had a great time that year.
Are you seeing yourself going back to the US soon, Scott, or have you converted and become an Italian?
I don't know if I've become an Italian. I've been here a long time and I don't speak Italian well, but we're going to stay for sure for another 5, 7 years, and then we'll see what happens after that.
Scott Gillman, it's been fantastic to be here talking to you tonight. We have already been on for an hour, 15 minutes. Let me have a quick look at the comments to see we covered the ancients. Complaining about my echo has been resolved. Taylor Callahan says, Kennedy says, I love you, Grandpa.
Yeah,
There
that's
we.
Kennedy and Cooper. My grandson is going to be a next motocross racer. He's already 5 and racing around. So we look forward to spending some time in the States to help him with his riding.
Taylor is saying Cooper says he wants to keep racing for you. So that's a Gilman Racing coming up there.
Yep, that's the future for sure.
Sounds like another family sponsorship to me.
Yeah.
Well, is there any more questions as we start to. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. One of the guys which was with you a long time, personal friend of mine as well, Eddie De Vries, he says hello.
Yeah, Eddie was a great guy. Eddie was the first year when I came over in '97 was Eddie and Troy were the only 2 mechanics on the boat, and Manuela on the radios, and we had a great time with Eddie for many years.
Scott, what do you think about promoting of powerboating and your views on how we can manage to develop this one? We have on the build up to this live stream talked a lot, and we shared some thoughts on it. I particularly liked and will guide you in the direction of cheering for each other, trying to build each other's sports up, and so on. But what do you think we can do as racers to promote the sport in a better way and to grow the sport? Is there any chance that we can develop it over the next couple of years? What should we do?
Unfortunately, the situation now is terrible, but I think that the development of the sport is very important. I think Nicolo and Lavinia and H2O, Nicolo's sons, Lavinia's sons, they do a great job. I mean, I know they go around the world, promised many races. I've been there with them and even brought different people to try to do races, but it's very difficult, as you know, for the Formula One, the Formula Two. And for me, I think it's good if the Formula One and Formula Two work good together in the future. I told you, I'd love to see a Formula One and a Formula Two race together. I think it'd be great. And I think that we need all the classes, and we need to try to for sure make it better and better. And there's like even the stuff you're doing now with this live streaming at this time, and it's more like interviews every week with different drivers and team managers. I think this is great. I mean, we just need to get it out there more in the eye of the people for sure.
Let's continue to do that, and I'm hoping that you are going to open your or are able to open your Gillman Academy, because then we will drive down from Norway to as soon as the borders open to have some proper testing down in the Casale Classic waters. Scott,
Okay.
I think we're going to wrap it up here. We have covered all the questions. It's been a pleasure to speaking to you. When the COVID-19 situation is a bit better, we're going to get back on having some quick interviews. When is your equipment coming back to Europe, by the way?
I think it'll be here Thursday, so we're very happy. I mean, my house is about a quarter mile on a dirt road from the shop, so we're looking forward to it. So Thursday should be back here, and we'll go to work, and hopefully we're playing in the water in the next few weeks.
Diana Peterson says, tell us about your house being painted.
My house being painted a long time ago. Craig Wendt was one of the great competitors in America, and we used to play a lot of practical jokes. Greg Foster one time and ourselves put Formula One boat in Craig Wendt's pool and with a test wheel, and then I went away and came back, and my house was painted orange, fluorescent orange. That's what Craig was a painting country. So we had a lot of fun over the years in America doing different things. They're great people, and for sure.
Can we get some shed tours during this COVID-19 period? Wade Mullins says. So basically, it's challenging you to do a live stream in the workshop.
Sure, we'll do some videos of the workshop and send them to you. No problem.
Let's do that. We can talk about that later on. Okay, Scott, thank you very much for an entertaining and hopefully a good evening. We covered all the questions, and if you have a good tip on whom I should interview next on the Race Factory, send me a PM or drop it into the comments here, and we will try to find the next guest on the Race Factory. Okay, Scott, say hello to Paula. Let's catch up later on.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.